In this lesson, we'll continue to work with motion and we'll introduce some external assets that we've created. One here is a image created in Photoshop, which is a PNG file of a circle with a clear background, and that's why we had it as a PNG file. And we'll be bringing that into the library, and you can see it right here, as well as some sounds that I've provided. So you'll need to download these and then also click the plus sign and import these sound files. These happen to be the .ogg format, which seems to be pretty friendly on this PC version. It should be able to take MP3s and WAV files as well. But just try them first and you can hit the play button and hear the different previews for the sounds. There we go. So I'm going to have sound happening when the ball collides with the purple bricks. And so it's just a matter of picking one of these. All right, so I do have a finished file, so why don't I run the file now and just demonstrate how it works. And then I'll come back and briefly describe how it's built, and then we will build one from scratch in a step-by-step process. I will just add right now that I do have one rogue brick right down here, where the other ones are all fixed and locked in place. This one actually will be kind of counter-gravity, anti-gravity. It'll actually be moving upwards, and I have a feature that we'll learn how to do where when it exits the scene, it returns on the opposite end. So when this flies out, it comes back in the other scene, and that's known as a wrap. It will also accelerate, so if there's no collision between the ball and the rogue brick, it will get faster and faster as the game moves along. So why don't I just hit play and we'll demonstrate that. So there's our little sound, and you can see that that brick starts out slow, and the ball does have a little more force than that brick, so it will push it around. And I'm not clicking any buttons just yet. I'm just letting the brick kind of move around to demonstrate that. And there is the wrap feature that I was talking about. So I can move the ball left or right with a left or right keyboard command. And I can also move it upwards with spacebar. And I can move it upwards as well as left and right simultaneously, so I can kind of get those diagonal motions. Now the up will continue. It doesn't need to be on any surface in this. It's simply hitting the spacebar will give it an upwards motion that will fight against that built-in gravity that I've attached to it as well. So it's a little more complex, I guess, in how it will behave. But we do have left and right, and you can see there when I let go of the key, there is momentum. It doesn't suddenly stop like the basic move command. We're actually using a different method here to move it. We're changing the velocity. So again, I have left and right, and I have up, and then I can combine left and right to navigate through the scene, and I can either try to avoid that rogue, or if I want to engage it, of course, I can just try to line myself up and bump it around. So that's the file. That's what we're going to create today. And maybe I should have let a little more room down here for this to pass through. And these are adjustments that I could make as I'm testing the game. So this is what we're going to build today. So I'm just going to go back to the editor now and explain a little bit on how it's built. If I just hide my backstage for a second and click away to deselect, I will go back to my library items for my actors. So I have one player, which is the green ball, that you will import. And it's something that you will create in Photoshop before starting this file. And as a PNG, you can retain transparency within the file. So it's just the ball that's opaque, and the remainder of the file, which is basically in a square, is transparent. And you can see here under size that it's set to 64 by 64, and those are details we'll get into when we do the build. But really those are the only attributes I believe that I've changed on this. Now the original size is double that size. That's why it's 64. The original size will be 128 by 128 pixels, and that's something we'll create in Photoshop, as I mentioned earlier. Now all these purple elements are just like this brick here, and they are called platform, and I believe they're probably square 64 by 64 as well, and I just manually stretch them on the stage, and you can see this little handle here, that's for rotating. And of course I can go in and just grab them and move them. I'm going to move these guys up a little farther so that ball can potentially move along the bottom here. Okay, so I've got just two elements, the player and the platform. And the platform, of course, I stretched around the edges to create a confined area so the ball is stuck in this square area, if you will. Now this one here, if I click on here and I go to backstage, you will see that it has been broken into an instance, and it has a unique feature where it accelerates 90 degrees, which is upwards, at a pace beginning at 50. Okay, so that one is broken apart from the rest of the group. It's no longer controlled by the prototype. It is its own creature on the stage, if you will. And I think that pretty well explains how it's built. Let me just go to some of the actual backstage things for the player. Let me call up the backstage here. Now you can see I've collapsed them all, but I do have the accelerate, which is that fake gravity. And again, it's going down at 270, which is a downwards, straight downwards direction, and set to 300. I also have the collide set so that when it encounters the purple elements, it will not just pass through them, it will bounce off them or land on them. And we have bounce when colliding with active type platform. Now the move left and move right, as well as move up, are a little different than the previous exercise we've done. Let me open this quickly here. I just have one condition, so it's even sort of less constrained, if you will. It's simply the keyboard key. In this case, it's the right arrow. And what will it do when I hit the right arrow? We have a feature, a behavior called change attribute. So we've got a change attribute down here, which will change the velocity on the x-axis. And that's something we'll do in our step-by-step as well. Just collapse this if I can. And the move left is the same thing, except triggered by the left key press. You can see here we are setting the motion linear velocity of x to minus 300. So it's a negative number to the left, a positive number to the right. And that one's set to minus 300. Again, we will apply all this when we do our step-by-step. Move up, same idea, except we are changing the y-axis. And we're setting to 300. Positive numbers on the y-axis move upwards. Negative numbers on the y-axis move downwards when we are setting the linear velocity. Okay, so those are all the hand controls, if you will. This one was hooked up to the space bar. These two were hooked up to the left and right arrow keys. And then finally, I'm introducing sound as well. And it is a rule, as are all the motions. And you can see that they are blue. That represents rules. I've got one condition. When I collide or overlap with a platform, which are the purple elements, it will play a sound, and I've got it set at a volume. I used the slider here, that's why it's this long number. You can come in here and set it to, I'll say 4, hit my tab key. It goes from 0 to 10, I believe, or 0 to 9. I wouldn't mess with the pitch, that alters the sound. And then on the play sound, you have a list of all the sounds that are available in your library under the media tab. And I've just chose the one called coin, and leave the default run to completion, so that will play the full short sound when it plays. So this is a sound that will be played on the condition of the green ball coming into contact with any of the platform elements, which are the purple bricks. And that's how the sound got created. And that's really the main elements on what makes all of this work. If I hide this right now, again, I'll hit play quickly here. And my motion left and right, and my space bar pushes it up. All right, and every time I hit purple, I get the ding ding sound. So that's what we're going to build today. So the next thing I'll show you are the step-by-step features. Let me just go back to the editor here now.